Hello, good evening, and welcome to the LFC Day Trippers Club podcast as we continue our reviews of World Cups from 1990 up until the present day. Tonight we look back at the 2010 World Cup, which was a historic tournament, the first time held in Africa. The club is brought to you by Pitchboard Football Fan App, giving the fans a voice. Get your free downloads on the App Store and the Google Play Store. Hosting tonight is myself, Keith Plunkett, the biggest hosting scandal since South Africa got this World Cup. And I'm joined by supposedly three proper football men. I've got Gareth Breen. How's it going, Gareth?
Yeah, pal, you all right?
Good. Living the dream in yourself.
You're looking well, mate.
I do my best. I had a shaving off at this, Gareth. I felt I couldn't do anything with the hair, so I'd try and just spruce up a bit.
This is historic. COVID-19 and Keith Plunkett's hosting debut. Absolutely, I'm delighted to be involved.
That's all it took was a global pandemic to wipe the rest of them out. Also joining us tonight, we have to get the Continental Beers, we have Peter Smith. How are you, Pete?
Not too bad. Nice to add a bit of flavour to things. Looking well, everybody. It's good to see you looking healthy.
Oh, yeah, that's it. It's all we can do, isn't it? It's all we can ask. We're meant to be joined by another Three Lions representative, but he's not here at the moment. So we'll give Dicko a bit of time to see if we can get him on board. But we will start looking at this tournament, lads. And looking back at it, my memory of this wasn't a great tournament. And I say that on every one of them. But this one particularly wasn't one of the best ones. Gar, I'm going to start off with you first, because one of the big things about 2010 happened before the tournament even started, and it was Ireland's influence on this World Cup. What do you remember about our non-appearance here?
Our non-appearance? Jeez, I don't remember much. More from a coaching thing, this one would have been big for me for the big transition to Spain. Was this when Henri had his little bit a bit before, didn't he?
No, this was the playoff with France, and we went in, and Henri had a sneaky little handball. And the thing about it was when Sepp Blatter got up in front of I don't know, it was a FIFA committee or some sort of a committee, and said about how the FAI requested a 33rd spot in the World Cup for Ireland, and sort of laughed about it and all. We were a bit of a laughing stock at this time. What do you remember, Pete?
I do. I remember. In particular, I remember Robbie Keane being completely outraged and actually going on live television and, talking about Sepp Blatter and the French Football Federation as well, having a good laugh up, but the fact of the matter was it was blatant cheating. I mean, people complain about VAR, week in, week out, but I mean, God, we could have done with VAR. And I do remember the dynamic of the game. I was living in London at the time. I remember the first leg, and I remember then it coming down to this, and the momentum was completely with Ireland. Completely, there was only going to be. I mean, it was like watching a boxing match. France were completely, out on their feet. The momentum was with us. It wasn't like they were attacking us incessantly. It was, we had the momentum. We were completely ripped off. I mean, body language doesn't lie. My lingering memory of that is Richard Dunn. Arguably one of our best players at the time, just being completely distraught at the end of the game. Now, even if you've been cheated and you feel that you've been bested by the better side, you're not going to react like that. So for me, that reaction said everything. Ireland should have went to the World Cup.
I think in any level of sport, I think we've all kicked the ball, and if you feel you're cheated at any level, you're going to react and you can tell, as Pete said, the reaction of Richard Dunn, I think, was telling in that. And what it meant Ireland weren't there, so we didn't have a horse in this race, but we may have watched on with interest at see how our friends in France got on, and they had an interesting tournament.
Poison.
To say the least.
They were poisoned.
It was good to see, because they were absolutely dreadful. Probably the worst case of infighting I can remember, and I know the Dutch were always famous for it. In every World Cup they go into, there would be a bit of division in the Dutch camp, but my Jesus, the French really took it to another extreme in this. They went in and they had Domenech was the coach, wasn't he? Domenech was the coach.
Yeah, if you want to call him that. Yeah, if you want to call him.
He was a con man, wasn't he? He was an absolute sham. And he went in, and I don't know, it was the first game or their second game. He stuck the rap on Nicholas Anelka or something, and Anelka retired and all from international football at half time and was thrown out of the tournament and all this, and the players went on strike. It was just absolute bedlam in the French camp. It was weird to see, and the thing that sticks with me about it is, if Ireland had got there, we would have made a better fist of it than what France did. It was
you look at that
the group that you were in, right?
You look at that
the French one.
Yeah, and we'd seen it in our games, in that I suppose the key game that we went out in. It was aging. It was obviously there was a few younger lads in it, but there wasn't many. It was the time where France really hit its transitional peak, and I suppose they developed their younger players who they have now. If you look back at it, every country needs that sort of 10 years, and you see this one, Germany obviously. And Spain, particularly in this tournament, their transition of how they turned their coaching system around. We spoke about it. Obviously, I missed last week's pod, but we spoke about the one before of how old that Spain squad was. And if you turn to this one, then you can see the sort of 10-year gap that they say a country does develop its sort of academy, and it's younger lads from 12s, 13s, 14s. It all started to come through at 22, 23, 24, and you could see this Spain squad obviously tells its own story throughout as we'll talk, but that France side, you could see it needed a brush through it.
Yeah, it wasn't a great quality to them. And Pete, do you have any vivid memories of the French squad in this?
Yeah, I just think they were really a team, as Gar says, that were kind of on its last legs. I mean, everything that was coming through. I remember the likes of Florent Malouda, for example, who for me just wasn't at the level, required. I mean, you look back. I mean, a lot of people look back at the great '98 squad, and I know they had a complete. They didn't, they didn't really turn up in 2002 either. But that '98 squad was just riddled. There was a very with quality. There was a very famous documentary made about that '98 squad called A Year in the Blue, all about how they got together in Clairefontaine and really became a family. Because as you know, one of the big problems in France, like in the Netherlands, is racial division. So it's really a story of having to unite them first. The French are a very particular race of people. I work with lots of them here in Barcelona, and they don't really, for example, in France, they don't really see the national soccer team as being representative of France. Now, the reasons are racial. They're more identified with the rugby team, to be quite honest. So you have to, when France qualify for a major tournament, there's this period where everyone has to bed in, and they almost have to cocoon themselves before the tournament. And I just think the greats like Zidane and Makelele, all the great leaders, even looking back to Thuram and Desailly, they were all gone. They were in decline and finished. So they had no real leadership. They had no direction. They had nobody bringing the factions within the French game together. So it was, to be honest, it was always going to be a disaster. Added to which, I firmly believe, and I think a lot of people did in the media at the time, that the French were suffering from a form of guilt after what happened with Ireland. And you must remember, it followed them around, even within the media circles in France. So they probably had that tension in the camp. Should we be here the way we came through? It was very, very unegalitarian, and they're certainly into that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And if we look at Ireland, I know we weren't there, but if we briefly just have a look, that group that France were in now, whether we'd have got in that group or not, I know is all guessing game. But Uruguay, Mexico, and South Africa. Well, we may not have got out. Well, we wouldn't have got out of that group, but we would have put up a better show than what the French did. And it's another one of the what ifs. We spoke about 2002 about Saipan. What if Roy Keane had been there? Could we have made a better fist and gone further in the tournament? But even if Ireland had been there and hadn't got out of the groups, we'd have brought a lot more than what the French did. And it's just a pity that we didn't get there. But we'll move on from who wasn't there, and we'll speak more about how the tournament actually panned out. Now, I know one, and a lot of comments in the group so far that we're saying about this. The overriding memory a lot of people have of the 2010 World Cup is the lovely melodic sounds of the Vuvuzela. And
there's
in
a few
all
queer
honesty,
comments on this today.
in all honesty, when I first started watching the matches, I just couldn't get it out of my head. It was the absolute biggest pile of shite that they could have done. And there were small little plastic horns, and the noise of the bastard and things when there was 30, 40, 50,000 of them getting blown. It was actually, and I remember it well, like it was very off-putting watching it, sitting at home, sitting in the pub. It was like, turn the sound off this, I cannot watch it. What are you thinking about that?
I think you got to look at it culturally as well. You know, the idea of having a vuvuzela is a very distinctly African thing. You know, so I doubt nobody wanted to be too rude. Yeah, it was probably a little bit overbearing, but you've got to be conscious of where you are. It's like when the World Cup was in Brazil, you know, that samba beat that's going constantly, particularly through Brazil games, it's constant, just not half as annoying as a vuvuzela.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be real, Pete. You know, lads, when you get a hot Indian curry, right? And the morning after, right, all you do is you go and you're literally gone for the day after. That's what it was.
Yeah.
You've all been there, obviously. You can see by the shakes of your heads.
Yeah. The little things that stick with us. Another thing about that World Cup controversy was the ball. Gar, as a football man, what do you remember about the Jabalani?
Yeah, the golden Jabalani ball.
Yeah.
Gold and white, wasn't it? Yeah, and it was getting lighter and lighter as it.
Yeah, it was.
Wasn't it?
It was the first ball that Adidas didn't hand stitch. It was sort of manufactured to be as smooth and the most round ball they ever had. Some of the shite they come out with for these things for marketing, you know, the most round ball ever. But because it wasn't hand stitched, it was literally a smooth ball. But it had all these grooves on it to be no different in the dry and in the rain. Because I know South Africa, they were probably expecting a bit of weather issues to come, and this was meant to be the saviour. But there was a lot made of it at the time, and when you look back at the tournament, there was some great goals scored in this tournament. Some cracking from distance, a lot of them from distance.
Yeah, the ball was moving all over the place.
Yeah, can we put it down to the fact that Adidas reinvented a ball?
Well, wasn't this one where the keepers literally had the training sessions up to your World Cup training sessions before you head over the 2 weeks or whatever, and the keepers had full trials of shots being bang, 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 and all of them. I think every keeper, the feedback was so negative around the ball, about it moving so fast, about it literally being in front of your face and then suddenly it jutting away from you. Every keeper, I believe, remember at the time. That's all you heard on certain news streams was keepers giving out feck about the way the ball moved in the last minute and how light it was at times.
Yeah,
I think I remember though at the time. You must remember, Gar, you're a bit different to me. I was firmly in the centre forwards union. I mean, you go near the goalkeeper, even 2010. Now you go near the goalkeeper physically, and it's a free out. I remember thinking at the time, okay, now you've got something that's not on your side. Deal with it. You know?
Yeah, that's it. You know, they do get a lot of protection, so this is just payback for all that protection. But if we look at the games themselves, the group, so we won't dwell too much on the going through each and every group, you know, because there's a lot to talk about later on with this tournament, and we do have a quiz at the end that it seems as though I'm the host, I won't be winning it this week, so I think that's why I got handed hosting duties, you know. But if we look at the groups, right, the last World Cup we spoke about, and Pete, you were on with myself and Phil last week, and we spoke. That was the one where all the favourites had got through? Was it the expected teams in each group?
Yeah, 2006. It was almost like it was played out, and the results were picked out by a pools panel. To be honest with you,
after the fiasco in 02, wasn't it? Like where
exactly. Yeah, they had no South Koreas, no heroics, no unexpected, no red herrings. You know, so 2006 was a very straightforward tournament.
Yeah. Whereas this one sort of reverted back to the 2002 vintage, because we have France absolutely stinking the place out in their group, coming bottom. As I said, Ireland would have probably bet that fist of it than they did. But we also had Italy, absolute muck in their group, and Italy finished, if I can find their group here, Italy finished bottom of their group.
Bottom, didn't it?
Do you remember who was in the Italian group and they finished bottom of it?
Was it Yakinta that only scored one of their only goals?
Yeah, I'm going to tell you who was in there, right? Paraguay, Slovakia, and New Zealand.
New Zealand, wasn't it?
And Italy finished bottom of that group, and it wasn't a great Italian squad, in fairness, at this stage. You're right, Pete. Yakinta was involved. He was playing. Gilardino. They had Cannavaro was there, and they had Buffon, but they were an aging team, and we spoke about in previous pods about, teams getting that bit older and having to change it up. Well, Italy had won the previous World Cup, and unexpectedly, and I suppose they were working on a formula of, this is how we always do our World Cups. We don't need to reinvent any wheels. We don't believe in younger players, so we'll just do what we have to do. But they were absolutely awful in this World Cup.
Still, it wasn't a bad centre half pairing. With still Chiellini was I don't know.
Yeah, I suppose Chiellini's coming into his own. I suppose we're going back. We're going back 10 years. Yeah, Chiellini was in good form, but I'm looking at the first game here, and they had Zambrotta right back, Cannavaro, Chiellini in the centre-back positions in front of Buffon, obviously, his quality. They had Crescito at left-back, and he was a bleeding no-mark. Then they had De Rossi, Montalivo. Montalivo was
Marquiso, didn't he?
Yeah, Marquiso was a good player, but they had Simone, Pepe, Yakinta, and Gilardino. Now, we've spoke about previous tournaments where they had Bobo Vierdi up front, Horson in goal, beating down terrifying teams. This was not that vintage. Now, I was looking back today, and they actually had one of my favourite players is Fabio Cagliarella, and he scored an absolute peach there.
He's still playing now, I think.
Yeah, no, he's brilliant. He's absolutely brilliant. But he scored a delicious lob in this against Slovakia in the last game, but they were already gone, I think, at that stage. And it was just a lack of quality in that Italian squad, I think, for this World Cup. And I'm a huge fan of Italy and of Italian football. I don't mind that they can be boring and can be negative and defensively solid. I quite like all that. But this was just blatant brutal, I think. And again, maybe it was a case of, we spoke Chiellini, maybe the next World Cup was Chiellini's time. Italians, I suppose, as they get older, they get more wily and get more streetwise. And I just think this was the perfect storm of shy for them. So that was two big casualties gone out bottom of their groups in the group phases, and it wouldn't have been expected. But we had other teams in here, so we'll quickly run through the groups. I won't dwell on each one, but Group A, we saw Uruguay and Mexico go through. Now, Uruguay, we'll talk about later on, because Uruguay were, to me, the best team in the tournament. But
attacking wise,
attacking.
I mean, Forlan, so I think Suarez was 23 or 24. Yeah, they'd quality in that final third. It was at the back where they were a bit suspect.
They were, but it was cynical South American football with the flair, and it was, if we look at the Argentina team in this World Cup, we look at the Brazilian team and Uruguay were, and I think they went on and won the Copa America as well, in the years after this. So it was sort of a bit of a golden generation for Uruguay. But
really good centre, but you've just touched on, obviously, the Italians defending, but if you look, obviously, Godin and Lugano. At that time, and they had Pereira right full of them, right?
Maxi Pereira.
Yeah, who was, and that tray. I think if Susila or someone was playing left back at that stage, and that it wasn't a bad back four, lads. It
wasn't
youngish age at the time as well between them all.
It was it was a tough, that centre back pairing is a very tough pair. Godin and Lugano at the time, right? Lugano wasn't the quickest, but they were two tough centre backs, and Godin.
How old was Godin at the time? He must have been
going back 10 years now. What's Godin now?
He's 24, I think.
So you're getting peak Godin in this World Cup. So it was a decent enough team, but they came through. No problems there in Group A. We've, as I said, France are gone. We've got, let me move on to Group B, is Argentina, South Korea, Greece, and Nigeria. Now Argentina waltz out of this group. In fairness, they got 3 wins. South Korea coming second, which was probably a surprise. Greece and Nigeria, maybe not. Nigeria always flatter to deceive at the World Cup. We look at the next group. Geez, the next group is England and
USA and United States.
We don't have our Three Lions representative to speak about it, because United States, England, Slovenia, and Algeria. England were absolute pounding in this World Cup. Absolutely.
Again, England, a bit like you said about Italy. I remember at the time I watched this with a few English friends of mine. Their opening game, I think it was against the United States.
Yeah.
And you got Robert Green in goal, if I remember correctly. I think they were struggling up top. And did they play Steven Gerrard up front? I think it was in this game.
Heskey and Rooney played behind Heskey, didn't he?
Gerrard scored. Did Gerrard score the goal? I think against
Gerrard.
This was the start of the Lampard sort of Gerrard.
Oh, do you know what it was? I think
can they play?
This, but the Gareth Barry issue. Now you'll probably talk about it later on. I remember. I think not to put a spoiler on it, England eventually going out, and there was a bit of a comic moment. Gareth Barry losing a foot race against Mesut Ozil, which really summed up the English in that tournament. It's they're just running in reverse, and it's a bit like those other teams we talked about. There's a few fellas probably there that kind of shouldn't have been there, to be quite honest.
Yeah, we spoke in previous tournaments about England squads and how the quality was 1 to 22, 1 to 23. It'd be sort of hard push to find a weak link in this, but this squad, your IP, Rob Green and goal straight away. Not having that,
That's a competition winner.
It is, yeah, and it's mad. And I don't like to have digs at the English,
I
do. we do, but it's low hanging fruit in this one, because they were absolutely pony. Like they drill with the States, as you said, first game. Second game, then did a 0-0 draw with Algeria, and then a 1-0 win against Slovenia. Like they were bad, they were really, really bad. And but they got through in second place, but I wasn't holding out much hope for them. And then when we saw how the knockouts go, but the next group then was Germany, Ghana, Australia, and Serbia. So as expected, the Germans are coming through that. And
this is a good group.
It is a good group. It is a good group, yeah, because Ghana were a good surprise package of this
surprise.
Yeah, they really were. They shocked a lot of people, and they. From an African point of view, they carried the flag for Africa, really, getting to the later stages. But as we expect, Germany roamed through this, and the thing with the Germans in this, they looked a bit sharp as well. They did again. We spoke about 2002. Germany sort of hit a ceiling with their squad, aging players. And shook her up. And the last tournament, we saw the introduction of Philipp Lahm, we saw Bastian Schweinsteiger, we saw Lucas Podolski. Now they're all still in around this squad. But you touched on Mesut Ozil there, Pete, and Mesut Ozil was absolutely sensational.
Yeah, Thomas Muller as well. Thomas Muller,
exactly.
Muller wins young player of the tournament. I mean,
so I mean, it's hard.
Shown for this, yeah.
It's hard to differentiate. You think of these players now, and you're like, no, but back then it was a different kettle of fish. Like they were exciting. Thomas Muller was an exciting player back then. The game sort of maybe has moved on a bit on Muller, because he's one of these players that doesn't really have a position now, that way. And Ozil as well is in a position that
I think Thomas Muller is a victim of his own quality. He's one of those guys. He's not quite a centre forward. He doesn't look like an attacking midfield player. He's one of those guys. I don't know. The closest comparison I can think of is like a Teddy Sheringham type player. He's neither one nor the other. But interestingly, I think with Muller, if I'm not wrong, Gar, he's one of the highest assist makers. He's got some sort of record of assists, certainly for the German national team.
Yeah,
and I think he scored a lot of goals in this tournament, maybe 4 or 5.
Yeah,
but he's never hit the heights since of this tournament.
And that's the thing, as you touched on there, Pete. You're right. He was never a centre forward, the attacking midfielder maybe, but he wasn't quick enough to play out wide. And the game now is more about wingers or inverted wingers with pace and power. And I don't know, it's a strange case with Thomas Muller, but he did have a very good tournament. And the Germans were at this time an exciting team. They were sort of coming up to a peak in that generation. The next group then we had the Netherlands, Japan, Denmark, Cameroon. It's straightforward there. We've got the Dutch going through. Group F then is the Italian one we spoke about, Paraguay, Slovakia, New Zealand, Italy. Shocks all over the place in that one. And then we had Group G, which was a group of death. We had Brazil, Portugal, the Ivory Coast, and they got the group of death in the last World Cup as well. So it's unfortunate for them. And North Korea.
Who were awful. I mean, I don't know how they qualified. Awful. North Korea.
They were the lowest ranked team at the tournament. They were ranked 150.
Yeah, I think Portugal did them 7-0. It was the last time you'll probably see a game where Cristiano Ronaldo is so unselfish. You can see he's actually trying not to score. One of the goals he gets kind of bounces off his head, and he looks to. This game sticks out in my head that the Portuguese just, even Thiago scores a couple of goals, not a goal scorer. Right. So it's a strange, very, very North Korea. I think they qualified for the World Cup in 1966, and maybe there was a huge gap between World Cups for them.
That's right, yeah.
I don't know how there's a lot of strange things happen in FIFA with Sepp Blatter, certainly
very much so,
in the helm, and certainly North Korea's qualification was one of them.
It did this year, didn't it? It did that year, or that World Cup in fairness, when it came out in 2015. As Keith said, we'll probably go on to it later on. That should be hilarious.
The which?
The goings on 2015 came out of the
100%.
We'll speak about it later. Let's get through the group.
We will indeed. So the next one then we have is Spain, Chile, Switzerland, Honduras. Again, Spain, we know that the Spanish had sort of been building up to this. We spoke about a change from a Real Madrid type of Spanish team to a Barcelona type of Spanish team, and it all culminated in 2010. They weren't very good. That's what I remember from it. And when I look back, I was right. The Spanish, they won this and they were brilliant. But there was a few holes, let's say, in their squad, in their performances, maybe. Let's say in their performances, won't be too harsh. But they got through the groups, and anyway, they actually lose their first game to Switzerland 1-0, and it's unusual for the team that win it. Not unusual, but for a team like Spain, if I'm not wrong, they were on an unbeaten run. I think they won the Euros in a way, didn't they?
They did. The famous Marcos Senna European Championships.
They were on an unbeaten run, a whopper unbeaten run, and then they hit Switzerland and got beaten. But they got through that group. There was no surprises. They were never going to be Switzerland, Honduras, and Chile, but they got there. It's important getting in there. So we've blitzed through the group phases there. Nothing overly exciting or interesting happened. We had the Vuvuzelas and we had the Jabulani. We had France was the main talking point, and Italy going out. But we move on to the knockout stages here, and if we look at the games, so the first game up we have Uruguay and South Korea. Don't really remember this, but I know we had 2 goals, I think, from Suarez in this one, and we'll talk about him in a few minutes. I won't start on him just yet. The next game up, we had Ghana against the United States, and this was again, it was Ghana, a Ghana team that were exciting, and they were familiar enough. The few names that we would have all recognised.
Asamoah Gyan,
and. If we look at their sort of the squad that were in there in these games, John Pansel played, John Mensah, Anthony Yannan, Kevin Prince Boateng, Kwadi Asamoah, Andrew Ayew, Asamoah Gyan. That was their sort of team. Stephen Apoya comes on, Sully Muntardi comes on. So they were all sort of familiar players. And at the time, I suppose you had a familiarity with the Ghanaians. I think Michael Essien had made them in vogue for Chelsea in the decade really leading up to this. So they weren't a surprise packet, but they got in there and they beat the USA in extra time. They had to do a lot of work in this tournament, in fairness to them. But they got through 2-1 in that extra time goal by Jan. The next one was Germany and England. I want to talk about this one for a minute. Right, we can talk about this one. England were pony, but, and there is a but. Lampard.
Goal line technology.
It was
It's a meter over the goal line.
It's madness. It's not even close. It's not even close.
It's one of those, to be honest with you.
You can see when it happens
Yeah.
that they just drop their heads. You can see when it was my Stags. And I was in Liverpool, believe it or not, for that game, and it was hilarious. The goings on around, the Brits after that game, the centre of Liverpool got, I remember there'd been trouble after as well. I don't know if it was Irish lads went down, lads off my Stag start slagging people, but but it's Lampard's. It's clearly a goal, and you see. After this happens, the English side just completely dropped their heads.
Yeah, it was. And
well, you've got to ask yourself, where's the linesman in all this? It's easy to slag, but at the end of the day, and it's easy to say, oh, isn't it great that we've got goal? But this goal is so far over the line for such a marked space of time. And again, I always look at players' reactions. The English are looking at each other. The Germans are kind of being professional.
Yeah.
Where is the linesman in all this?
Exactly, and that's his job, He don't have too much to do without having to dig at linesmen, But in these sort of instances, that's their job. There, the referee looking straight at it can't see these sort of things, but the linesman should be well on top of that, and he wasn't. It was outrageous. But this game, the first German goal, I think Miroslav Klose scores it. If anyone remembers it, there was an absolute balls up by Terry and Upson at the back, and the ball just drops. Klose bangs it in, and Germany were just never getting caught that day. It was absolute woeful by England, to be honest. They were just absolute. And you're right, Gareth Barry comes on and is getting stripped by Mesut Ozil. And look, Mesut Ozil, 10 years younger than he is now, he still wasn't a quick player. Do you know what I mean? His game was never.
Gareth Barry's running in reverse. You've got a player like Gareth Barry. Don't get me wrong. Very, very, very good player, organising other players, but to put him on a pitch, that's because I remember the size of the pitch. You're at a major tournament. You're playing Gareth Barry as the fulcrum on the cover. Yeah, he's. I remember that instantly. He's coming across. He's got 20 yards to make up. Why on earth is he in that position? I just not. No disrespect to him. It's just. It's poor management, it's poor planning. Gareth, you're a coach. Are you going to put a player as one-paced as Gareth Barry in front of a back four that's already disorganised? So that he's going to be filling holes anyway. So he's going to have to go and try and make up his own position. Are you going to put him as fulcrum? I'd rather put.
But you look, Keith. You look who the manager is, right? It's an Italian manager, and you look in regards of Barry. And up to that time, he played at left full. At left wing, and he'd be sort of become that multifunctional player. And if you look at his time at left full, he was never, he was never lightning quick. We all know he's fucking Benitez nearly signed him and got rid of Alonso. History of that. But if you look, it suited Capello to have him because he was more or less a snail. Yeah, he was always good positional wise. In fairness to him. And look, when he hopped around positions for his different clubs, he'd always done well. Villa and obviously City, he could play in several positions, and that would have suited Capello because he was good. The pace thing wouldn't have come down because look at Italy over the years, lads. The back fours were never lightning quick.
Yeah, but Italy are organised. You're talking about in England.
They love players, Keith. Peter. They love the Italian managers. It's not about pace, as you said, organisation, and he was that player. He was an organised player. It wouldn't have bothered him to be lightning quick, as we saw Senna previously. Absolute beast with loads of pace, and Makelele in previous years, people who had pace and could just use their body to hit that position. But he was a pivot as more or less because he had a left peg on him and he had decent passing range.
Well, that for me, I agree with you. But if you're going to have that, listen, we're analysing the game from 11 years ago, 10 years ago. But if you're going into a game against a side that's not, you're going to have the ball against. I don't mind having Gareth Barry in that side because again, that left foot comes into play, that organisation comes into play because you're bringing other players in. But if you're going up against a team who are going to swallow you up whole, who every one of them likes to have the ball, and you're putting Gareth Barry in front of a disorganised back four, you're asking for trouble. And this is Capello, as you say, a master. It was like he just reverted to, I don't know, like a schoolboy manager. I remember I didn't get it at the time, still don't get it now.
Yeah, no, it's true. Gareth Barry, I agree with you there, Gar. He was that Swiss Army knife that England needed, that could go in. He was tall as well, he wasn't a small player. He was tall, he was big, he was robust, but he just wasn't tactically, technically and tactically as astute as or crafty as a typical Italian. I think and
I know
the best version of it, but that says more about, I think, the English maybe.
I know hindsight is a great thing, right? But if you look at that squad now,
yeah,
and the difference Milner could have made in that position.
Yeah, Milner played in this.
He was playing left wing through this
wing.
tournament. I'm really sure. Yeah, and if you look
he played in the right wing in this game.
Oh, did he? Right, so apologies.
He was on the left. He was, but in this match, actually, Gerrard is down as left wing because Barry came into the centre with Lampard.
Okay, there you go. Right,
left and Milner went to the right, but he was left winger before that.
And if you look in hindsight now, you'd probably go right with the squad. If you still have the name at first 11. In hindsight, you'd probably put Milner in there because, as Peter pointed to, you need someone who's going to get amongst the feathers and going to kick people and going to put the foot in and who has a bit of pace to be able to do that. And Gareth
case in point, the incident we're talking about, Mesut Ozil stripping Barry out of it, Milner takes him out.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. And I know, as I say, hindsight is a great thing.
Yeah,
hindsight is a great thing. But listen, if you have that today. And the three of us, I'm sure, were naming that team. We'd have probably put Milner at the fulcrum of it because
exactly. You're right, Gar. Hindsight is a great thing, isn't it? It's easy to look back and say, well, I wouldn't have done that. But they were brutal in that tournament, England. They really were. And no disrespect to any of our English listeners, it was a poor team, and I don't think there was much hope. Usually we've talked about, maybe I'm wrong, but usually England will win and there's loads of hype and hope in every tournament. But I can't remember if there was in this one, and if there was.
Kato, you look back and of certain autobiographies that have come out about that time and that Capello's leadership, etc., or lack of. People have always said about the little cliques that was in that squad, even for the World Cup before, and obviously now now under Southgate, in fairness to him, he seems to have got things a little bit right. But that's that's had an effect in all now. Is the cliques in that squad, the Chelsea players, the United players, and it's come out in, as I said, in autobiographies that the dislike for one of these lads had for one another. And as you can imagine, lads, going into that squad and meeting up for squad days, there would have been cliques around. Nice place to be, look.
And one of the main things I always remember, again, I keep saying this, but I'm a huge Serie A fan. I sort of grew up loving Serie A. And the difference, I think, if you look at someone like Fabio Capello would have been a disciplinarian.
Yeah.
And he would have come from, I know he didn't come from Italy. I think Real Madrid was his last job before he got the England manager's gig. But he would have came up in Italy where the coach is referred to as Mister. It's utmost respect to the coach back at that time, to this crap that England and this golden generation of England. They were a very talented group of players, but the club rivalry, I think, played a huge thing. You touched on it there, Gar. You said about autobiographies, and you're right. You read them all, and the Liverpool players stuck with the Liverpool players, the United players stuck with the United players, the Chelsea players stuck with the Chelsea, and they were all big characters and they were all big personalities. And I think there was too much player power. Maybe Sven as well sort of allowed that to develop throughout the start of this golden generation. But I think it sort of culminated at this, that there was no respect for Capello, and they showed when they went over there. I think they were absolute garbage. They were brutal.
I think sorry, just the last thing on that for me, the big problem you have with England in particular is the English think, and a lot of people that talk about England think that they're the only country in the world where there's cultural or club divides. Every country has it. The problem I always say, and I've said this to you guys on a number of occasions, the problem the English have is they pick the best players.
Yeah.
They don't pick the best squad. If you want to win a tournament, you've got to have balance, and picking the best 1 to 22 rarely gives you that. All you're doing is picking the 22 biggest egos. The last truly successful English manager, well, bar Sir Bobby Robson, who for me was successful in 1990 in English terms, but Alf Ramsey left 5 or 6 seriously heavy hitters out of this. I mean, Jimmy Greaves didn't play. And he was the world superstar of English football at the time.
Roger Hunt at the time.
Massive stars. didn't play. He picked players from Blackpool, from Preston, players who were functional, who he knew would execute the plan that he wanted to execute. And this is the problem that you have, I think, with England. The Italians do it, for example, before every tournament, as we're talking about World Cups, there's always a controversy. Keith, you're a big Serie A fan, over this big star being left out, whether it's Totti, whether it's Inzaghi. And the manager will always say the same thing. I respect this player. He's a fantastic individual. However, he's not right for what I'm trying to achieve.
Exactly, and that's a big difference, and I think it did pan out for England in this. They were sort of showing up a bit, I think, and without labouring on it too much, we'll move on because we could talk about them all night, and they weren't that good, so we won't bother. The next game in the knockouts was another controversial one. It was Argentina against Mexico, and I don't know if anyone remembers this one. Carlos Tevez got 2 goals, Gonzalo Higuain and Javier Hernandez got
scores, yeah.
But there was Tevez scored a cracker in this corner from about 25 yards into the top corner. One of the most upsetting things about this was the Argentina kit on the day. They wore their white stripes and they had blue shorts, and I got really upset about this today when I was looking back. I had to Google and see that they played a tournament with like this, and it was just this game. I don't know why they didn't have their black shorts on them, but it really done me head in, so it's true.
Here, you know what Keith's ringtone is, don't you? I'm a dedicated follower of fashion.
They see him here. The Kinks, huh?
Look, it really upset me, and I'm not going to lie. I'm like, what's going on here? Why the fuck are Argentina wearing blue shorts with blue and white stripes?
Difficult on the adults.
I wasn't happy about it. But however, they won the game. But if you remember in this one, there was a Tevez goal and he was a mile offside and got given. Anyway, he went
bounced around a few players, though. I think it would have been one of those where I remember this game for some bizarre reason, but it bounced. It's one of those. If it goes to VAR,
and that's what it was to move on to. Actually,
but it's pinball. You've got 3 seconds to make up your mind, and most referees are just pointing to the centre spot.
It came off 3 players, didn't I'm nearly sure.
That's what I'm saying. It's who did it hit last, and where was the keeper? It's a lot of these things that comes into, as you know, Gar.
Touches on to something you did mention there about if the ref can't see it, why can't the linesman see it? And I think this was one of the things that really brought the VAR, the need for VAR. It pushed the conversation along, I think, because Sepp Blatter actually came out and apologized to the English FA and the Mexican FA. He said he contacted them to apologize because the referees, blatant mistakes were made, and they accepted the apologies, as they do, but I think it might have been after this tournament. I don't know if it was the Confederations Cup that might have happened after this, that they brought in them geezers that stand on the goal line.
The fifth official.
These useless officials that
the ones that did nothing from the penalty shootouts.
I think was brought in after that, and it was based on incidents like this. It was just one of them. We forget really what football was like back before VAR, and it's only been in 2 years, a year in the Premier League and a year before that. But it really, it could have had a big difference for Mexico and England in the World Cup. It had been something like that at the time. But look, there wasn't. So Mexico were on the bow home with England, and we move on. So the next one up was the Netherlands against Slovakia. This Dutch team were a decent team, but they were a hard team, as we'll talk about later on. They were a tough team. Do we have any overriding memories of the Dutch in this?
Yeah, Nigel de Jong. Absolutely pole-axing people. I mean, you touch on something. The Dutch had so many near misses. I mean, none of us have ever seen anything like the Dutch team of 1988. They had everything. We've had shows about Van Basten, my favourite player, Ruud Gullit, but they've had so many near misses in years that weren't 1988, and it was down to not being tough enough, probably being a little bit too, shall we say, pleasing on the eye, not being cynical enough. This Dutch team had cynicism. And it had Dirk Kuyt running around.
A hell of a lot of it. If you look through as well, lads, Ajax have their European sort of their factory, if you want to call it, hadn't been producing major stars for a long time before it. And you look now through this squad, you've got a lot of PSV boys. It was a huge. You make Johnny Hoyting like a pure bulldozer, like pure Leinster Senior League centre half, like
100%.
Woeful. Stekelenburg and net, who wasn't great, but in fairness to him, he got a fair few moves out of it.
Johnny average, wasn't he? But you're right, he did.
Van Persie obviously leading the line, and we've Schneider in there. But as Pete's touched on, a very, very hard working Dutch side, and got rid of the bullshit that I don't know, went over and shook hands with France before and said you can have the Inter bullshit, and we'll just get on. We'll get cracking on here.
And if we look at the centre midfield, it was Van Bommel and De Jong. There's not much silk in that, but there's a lot of bleeding steel. You know what I mean? And we spoke about Van Bommel in the last one about the type of player that he was, and De Jong was a star that shone brightly for a while and then disappeared. But my God, he's a tough man. You know what I mean? He was a no nonsense midfielder. He could play ball as well. He wasn't just a kicker.
He was.
No, but he was a ferocious player. And it was, you're right about what you said there, Pete. The Dutch, to me, were always a pleasing on the eye total football. 88 was the memory, but other than that, they'd flattered to deceive. And this team was one that I didn't fancy too much to go, but they moved on. Now, again, we'll move through this. They won that game against Slovakia. Slovakia weren't a great team. They got through that group unfancied. But then we had Brazil and Chile in the next one. Brazil had a comfortable 3-0 win. Now, talking about teams, this Brazil team were a bit...
Luis Fabiano. Kaká was the star. Still, he wasn't, probably wasn't really... Well, but he was a few good
players in it, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's true. If you've got, Lucio, obviously the Leverkusen, dream had sort of faded off with this, hadn't it? You've got Michel Bastos was at the time was flying at it.
Robinho was in the squad, though, wasn't he? I've seen him play in the flesh. I used to go to Tottenham a lot when I lived in London, and I've never in my life seen a player stand on a halfway line with his hands on his hips and a pair of gloves, and Robinho was that player. Yeah. I mean, he'd get a few slaps off me.
And of people I know in Madrid hated when he came because you said stand in the middle and just wants things to happen. Fabiano boys here as well. Don't forget, absolute machine of everything.
He was a good centre forward, but the quality that had gone from previous World Cups where we spoke about Ronaldo, Ronaldinho, Romario, Bebeto before that. Even the last one, you'd sort of Adriano maybe a bit more than his prime, whereas this one, I just think that the quality maybe wasn't there for this. Ramirez had come into the team and he was just a workhorse for them. It wasn't a great team, but they went through easy enough. And then with Paraguay and Japan, stinker, 0-0 draw. Paraguay go through on penalties. And that brings us to Spain v Portugal. Can't even remember this one. Does anyone have any?
1-0, wasn't a great game. David Villa scores.
I remember this just to sell it. It was always going to be, here in Spain, it's if a Portugal game comes around, it's just you don't lose this game. You don't lose this game. And I remember this game being just, for me, David Villa was a huge difference maker for any team he played in. He's just, where you get those teams, lads, and Spain was one of those teams in this tournament that can keep the ball 80% of the time, but never have anything to show for at the end. David Villa is that player that makes sure that you have something to show for at the end. I remember, if you remember him playing for Barcelona in that Champions League final against Manchester United, there was a spell where I think Rooney had equalised, and within the flash of an eye, David Villa had put one in the top corner just to kill the game. He's that player that makes sure that you get what you deserve.
Very underrated. I don't think he gets a lot of credit, David Villa, for the type of player he was. He was sensational.
His finishing, he scored a goal nearly from the halfway line in his tournament. And nine centre forwards out of 10 are not taking it on. He was that sure of. He was an excellent, very underrated player. Probably there were so many great centre forwards in the world at the time, and in this tournament at the time, that we don't talk about him enough. But he was ice cool. Really
But
good.
yeah,
Talent.
He had everything. He was pure raw pace. He reminds you of Michael Owen in ways. You know, that killer finish at times. But he could also, in fairness to him, he put it about up front for such a lad. You know, he was up for a fight. He wasn't just one to rely on his pace. He would, because don't forget, a lot of this tournament he plays up there in his own, lads.
Yeah, no choice. Tough little cunt.
And again, some rugged centre halves in this tournament. Let's be honest.
Oh yeah.
He's a tough guy, but he gets the goal and puts them through. So we move on now to the quarter-finals. First game of the quarters is Netherlands against Brazil. 2-1 to the Netherlands. Schneider show was perfect. Yeah, it was a good tournament, and I think Schneider back was in vogue, wasn't he, at the time? Was this the year Mourinho was gone to Inter? Did they win the Champions League, or was it the following
2011, I think it was. They won the Champions League.
But he
was it? Maybe I'm wrong. But yeah, it's this era.
You know, he was really at his peak. He was getting linked with Man United every second day, you know, and it never came through. He made some strange choices, I think, ended up in Galatasaray.
Yeah.
But he was the brains in that Dutch team, and he did drive them on, you know. He had a good World Cup. I'd say it just flashed in. Yeah, Inter won the Champions League in 2010. So, you know, he was really at his peak of his powers. And he did, as a creative force, he was driving them through. Now, this Brazil, they bet Brazil 2-1 in this. Our friend Robinho got one for Brazil, put them 1-0 up. Can't remember it, but I'm sure it was nothing special. And 2 goals then by Schneider in the second half just killed it off. But the Dutch marched on. The Brazilians were gone out. The next game was Uruguay and Ghana. I'm going to skip that one for a minute.
Oh, yeah, because there's someone that we should talk about in this game. As Liverpool supporters, we've got to talk about that game later on.
I'm coming back to that now in a second. Argentina, my favourite. I love Argentina. 4-0 to Germany. Gone, right? They're out. Black shorts in this game. Just a place to know. Paraguay and Spain then was an absolute stinker again. David Villa gets a goal for Spain to put them through, and that was the fourth game of the finals.
Yeah.
I want to go back to the other game we didn't talk about, was Ghana against Uruguay. What do you remember about this, lads?
I'll let Gareth talk about the controversy and the handball, but for me, all I'll say is, if, for example, John Terry handles the ball out of the top corner and England go on to the next round and progress in the final, he's a hero. He's sacrificed himself for the team, and he's done what he can. He's done what he's supposed to do for the greater good. But it's very, very easy to pin Johnny Foreigner as the evil. Luis Suarez did his job. Now, he's a shithouse. We all know he's a shithouse, but he did his job. If he doesn't do that, you're asking him why he's not done. And Gary, you're a coach. If your player doesn't do that in the same situation, you're asking him why.
You can see when he's going off, when he makes the walk off, you can actually see his coaches, you know, are sort of looking, going, "You've done us a favour here." And I have to say, lads, it's a great save.
It is a great save.
It's an absolute great save. In fairness, but as you've just touched on up here, like, you know, if you look, as you say, you know, his little bit of reputation was beginning. Had he done his little thing at Ajax there as well at that time? So
is the boy?
Yeah.
He was banned when we signed him, so this
right. Okay, so this was the start of his chaos, I suppose. But if you're looking for, you know, as he's just touched on, if that's anyone else, you know, if that's, let's just say, if it's one of the nice boys in the tournament, you know, a German player or, you know, a South African boy does it, there's no chaos here.
Yeah,
but
hero.
Uruguay were tearing it up at the time. So not really fancy going into it, if I remember right. And, you know, I think Shawnee put in earlier in the comments, you know, Forlan has an unbelievable tournament here as well. You know, you've the sort of birth of Cavani as well, this trio front. But, you know, as Pete's touched on, if you want the last couple minutes of a game, and a ball's come in like that, and, you know, you want someone to do that, or if someone's going through last minute of a game, just cross the halfway line, take them.
Yeah, it's
that's your job.
And it's easy in a tournament like this to be derided and to be made a hay figure because of the tournament, because of what's involved in it. You know, if it's a normal Sunday league game, you don't hear about it. Let's be honest here. If it's a championship game on a Saturday afternoon, you don't hear about it. If it's a national league game, you don't hear about it because obviously there was so much riding on it.
And not only that, he robbed Africa. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
he robbed
100%. Yeah, the you know, as you say,
I'll tell you what he did. I'll tell you what he did, which made it. To be honest with you, I remember that game, and the stadium was rocking. It was Africa versus the world, and he absolutely killed the atmosphere. The atmosphere died, and it just became. The minute it went to penalties, you just knew there was no way. At one stage during the shootout, and I don't want to skip over, keep what you're going to say, but at one stage during the shootout, one of the Ghanaian players scores, and you can see him trying to get the crowd back. Yeah. They lost the crowd. Luis Suarez, I mean, he's the Panto villain. But the moment he did that, because the subsequent penalty, I think, was missed by Asamoah Gyan.
Yeah, it was missed.
121st minute. It was the last kick.
Awful penalty. Awful penalty. Awful penalty.
In fairness to Gyan steps up and takes the first one in the shootout. So he missed the penalty, the last kick of the game, and then steps up to take the first one.
Had the balls to do it in fairness to him.
It was a very ballsy thing to do. But Suarez, when he missed the penalty and all, Suarez is on the side jumping around like he scored the winner in the World Cup final. And the explanation, like the Uruguayans, Forlan came out and said it, and the coach, Tavares, came out and said it. Says, what do you want him to do? He's a hero. We wouldn't want anything else. The Ghanaians actually were quite magnanimous and sort of said, look, when he's there, he's a hero back in Montevideo. Maybe not in Ghana, you know, but in Montevideo, he's a hero.
Let me give you the reverse, and it's strange because I've got African blood, obviously. In 1990,
it's all VP.
Yeah, somewhere. In 1990, Argentina played Cameroon. And I think there were 3 Cameroon players sent off, and they spent 90 minutes kicking Diego Maradona, kicking Claudio Caniggia, kicking everything in a blue and white stripe. At the end of that game, they beat Argentina 1-0. Heroes.
Yeah.
Nobody talks about the shithouse 90 minutes they've just been through, and they end up in the quarterfinal of the World Cup, and they're heroes. So you tell me.
Yeah.
Which is worse?
Exactly. It's at the end of the day, you know, you want to be in there. We'll move on, and anyway, I could talk about it for another hour, but the clock is ticking, I suppose. And we move on to the semi-finals now. The first semi-final, Uruguay and the Netherlands. This was a good game. It was 3-2 to the Dutch. Went through 3-2 in this, and I remember was this the game Van Bronckhorst got an absolute bleeding rocket in this one.
Yeah,
left from about 35 yards at an angle, drilled it in, cracking goal. Our boy Forlan gets one again for Uruguay. Forlan had an excellent tournament. It was a great tournament by him, but it was a step too far, I suppose. Obviously, they're missing Suarez. You know, it was a big loss for them. We didn't know him at the time, but you know, the reputation was building. You know, he was well known at Ajax. But stop putting them bleeding comments in the box there. Have a quiz coming up. So that was the first one. And anyway, the second semi-final was Spain and Germany. And this one, you know, was a German team we touched on. We did the coming out of Manuel Neuer for this tournament. You know, he'd come in, he'd taken over as number 1. We had obviously Mertesacker, Boateng, Friedrich. We had Khedira coming into the squad for this World Cup. We had Schweinsteiger, Ozil developing into a player again 10 years ago. He was a very exciting player back then. And then Podolski and Klose. It was a formidable German team. This Spanish team were developing a habit of grinding out wins. And they done it again. They got a 1-0 win. 73rd minute goal by Puyol. And it was just another slogging the way into the final. Now we'll go to the final I'm rushing through this because we have to do a quiz. And the main talking point for me was Suarez. And anyway, everything else in this World Cup was shit. So we got to the final. And what do we remember about the final, gentlemen?
Iniesta. And I remember Xavi Alonso's chest.
Yeah, part of it stuck on.
Part of it went back to Merseyside.
I think so.
Or his head nearly got kicked off.
Yeah.
But as you say, a bit of shithousery from the Dutch in this game. They were just absolute kicking lumps out of Spanish. for most of the game. I was actually in Valencia for this game, and the Dutch were absolutely just. I'd never seen a game so filthy in years gone by. But they were just mauling into them.
It was another case of a bad referee not getting a hold of a game.
Yeah. What was it? He lost it early, Keith. He lost it. That referee lost it very, very early.
Manchester.
Webb. I was playing Howard Webb, was it?
Yeah, Howard Webb. Doing the Baldy community no favours whatsoever.
I tell you, lads, you're right. You're right not to not talk about the game as a spectacle. But for me, the game should be remembered for one thing only, and that was not just Iniesta's goal, but what he did. I mean, we all had the dream. We've scored the goal in the last minute or the last few minutes of a major tournament, and we think, what we do, which member of our family would we do? But the guy. The first thing you could think of was a player called Daniel Harke, who had died the year beforehand, an Espanyol player who traditionally Barcelona, Espanyol would be like Everton to Barcelona, their poor neighbours. But Iniesta, being the man that he is, the decent, fantastic human being that he is, the all-time great that he is, decided to dedicate Spain's greatest moment to Daniel Harke, which for me is what that World Cup should have been.
Didn't he play in junior leagues with that guy?
I think so.
A little bit of a bond, the previous bond there between them.
He would have probably come up through the junior, underage teams and all Spain together. I think that was right there. That was a measure of the man and the sort of mentality that Barca team that Pep Guardiola had created. They were a special bunch, you know what I mean? And they were hard workers, but they were very humble as well, you know? I won't talk too much about Barcelona again. I'll be a fanboy about Pep's Barcelona team, but it was great to see a player like Iniesta get the reward to win that World Cup, because Holland went in with a plan. They got away with it, and the quality shone in the end. Now, if you remember the game, there was Robin had a chance. I think Casillas made a good save.
Yeah.
Sergio Ramos had a free header, but there wasn't much else happened in the game, and it was destined. It was on its way to penalties, drab penalty shootout, and then Iniesta pops in, and it was great for a player like that to deal with. So Spain get the World Cup. We spoke about them in previous episodes about how they were building and building and building. Again, this culminated in a World Cup win for them, and it was on the back of a Euros. And did they win the next Euros as well? Did they win 12? I can't remember.
I thought they won the next one as well, because that was the
end of them.
That was when we started seeing more of the Barca boys in, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a Fabregas with the false 9 and all this.
Yeah. They didn't play that tournament with a number 9 if I'm right.
That's right. 6. Yeah, that strange formation. 4-6-0.
Didn't play because all the inverted, different positions and Pep's sort of mentality was really going through the national side at the time. I'm really sure.
It was.
They say in Spain, we said this last. They say it's Spain is Barcelona. They say Barca sin Messi, Barca without Messi.
Yeah,
and they benefit from that. I mean, you talked about earlier about for me the biggest miss now Spain is Carlos Puyol. What a player!
Yeah,
what a player!
Exactly. And
but I think from
that's shithousery that Ramos would have brought to it as well. It was Barcelona, the leadership of Puyol, but then you had like a Ramos in there to balance out any goodness.
There's a lot of bullshit comes with Ramos, though, to be honest with you, that you don't get with a man like Carlos Puyol. And I say that, I choose my words carefully. Sergio Ramos is a man boy. I can't fucking stand players like him. But I don't use language that often. But Carlos Puyol, if you lose to a team with Carlos Puyol in it, you don't really mind. He's a man's man, decent player, no bullshit,
Peter, you look at what Keith said earlier, he's a love of the Italian game. If you look at Puyol, a real sort of Italian type defender, was his position was 100% all the time. He threw his body on the line, and in fairness, he was one of these types of guys who, if he went to ground, he was only going to ground because he needed to.
Yeah,
it's hurt.
A lot of defenders now that just go to ground so easy. Van Dijk not obviously being 1 in a million, but Puyol pure body on the line, put his body on the line for his team. You know, it wasn't for himself. It was pure. You know, I'm here for it. I'll back you up, lads.
Unselfish, very unselfish. A leader,
a proper leader,
unselfish. Would done everything sort of for the benefit of his team. You know what I mean? A great player, a player I don't think Barca ever really replaced. To be totally honest with you, how can you replace someone like that? And Spain as well, you know, they might have moved on to Piqué, but he just doesn't have
He's the clown. That guy's a clown.
Yeah, he doesn't have
and Piqué is not liked here. He's not liked outside of Barcelona. I mean, he spent his whole Spain international career complaining about playing for Spain, going on about being Catalan. For me, I have more respect for guys like, I don't know if you remember Oliver years ago. He was called up by Spain as a young player, and he said, no, I'm Catalan. I don't play for Spain.
Whereas, so if you have an issue, you don't go and do it in the first place.
Whereas Piqué the clown went and took all the trappings of being an international player, but moaned about it for his whole career. The guy's a clown for me. A clown.
So that wraps up our look back at the 2010 World Cup. I'm sure we could talk about more stuff on it, but we're going to move on to the quiz, and we're going to have Gar versus Pete. Like I said, I'm not in it this time, and I'm not happy about it, but needs must. So, lads,
there's an asterisk already beside one of yours, Kate. Anyway, so.
Well, you know, I'll take any asterisks I can get. Not a bother. I'm firmly on board with the asterisks. There's going to be multiple choice, and there's going to be non-multiple choice, but they're not going to be in a nice order like the way Dicko and all does them. So this is going to be mixed up a bit. So we'll start off. We'll get through this fairly quick, boys. You know the usual format. It's not our first rodeo, so we'll go with question number 1. Which team made their World Cup debut at this tournament? I'm not giving you a choice, so you just have to.
North Korea.
Don't plead and say the answer.
Sorry, I have to write it down, do we?
Yeah. I think so.
Oh, apologize. Sorry.
There's me saying it's not your first rodeo and Gar's jumping in with a blatant answer.
I thought it was a 1v1, for God's sake.
It is a 1v1.
Who's getting me buzzer already here?
Should have had me pen.
Question 2. Of the 736 players who took part in this World Cup, how many played their football in England? Now, there is a choice on this one. Is it number 1, is there 103? Is it 117? Or is it 127? Question 3. How many goals did North Korea in a group of Brazil, Portugal, and the Ivory Coast concede in the tournament? Was it 12, 14, or 16? Okay, next one. And this isn't a multiple choice one. What was unusual about the Germany versus Ghana game in the group phase? What one thing was the sort of standing?
We're wearing pink shorts, Keith, really?
Well, no, we'll move on to that. Next one. Have you both got an answer for that yet?
Yeah.
Okay. Who were the only unbeaten team in the 2010 World Cup? Next question. How many African teams made it to the knockout phase? Was it 1, 2, or 3? Thomas Muller, the next question is ready, yeah?
Yeah.
Thomas Muller won the Golden Boot with 5 goals. David Villa, Wesley Schneider, and Diego Forlan also had 5 goals. But why was the award given to Muller? Was it more goals from open play? Was it scored in the least amount of minutes? Or was it the most assists? Next question. Who won the player of the tournament? Garbrain's looking like the cat that got the cream there. He must have number 9. Spain set a new record for the least number of goals scored by a World Cup winning team. How many did they get? That's a bit hard, so I'm going to give you a choice on that one, right? Because you could be guessing anything. Was it 6, 8, or 10? And the last question, and we won't be looking for an exact number on this, it'll be the closest to, we'll get the point. What was the attendance for the final? No choices on this. So have we got 10 answers?
Yeah.
Gar, you happy?
I think I'm missing one, but go ahead.
Which one do you think you're missing? We can recap it.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, is it?
5, the only unbeaten team in the World Cup.
Yeah, okay.
Right, so we'll start off. Who made their debut in this tournament?
I think Gar was right on North Korea.
Oh, shout North Korea.
Although I said I thought they played in '66, but I was obviously wrong.
Never doubt yourself, Pete. They did play in 66.
I was right.
They did. They played in 66 and they famously bet some, I don't know, it was Portugal or Italy at Goodison Park. No, it was Slovakia were the first. They played on Czechoslovakia, but it was their first time and last time as Slovakia. The 736 players, how many played in England?
I have 127.
Or we put 117.
Right, so that's 1 point for Gar. 117. On Pete. How many goals did North Korea get in the group? Oh, sorry, concede. How many did they concede in the group?
I've got 12.
I had a goal. There was 11, was it?
No, it was 12, 14, or 16.
Because they shipped 7 to
Portugal. Sorry, 12. 12. Sorry, yeah.
Point for both is it was 12. Yeah, they shipped 7 against Portugal, and it was actually Brazil. I think only bet them 2-1, which was unusual. I think a reflection of that Brazil team.
Yeah, cool.
Number 4. What was unusual about the Germany and Ghana game?
Brothers, the two Prince Boateng brothers,
and Jerome Boateng.
Yeah.
2 brothers facing off. There was another unique brother. Does anyone know the other unique brother story?
Yeah, the 3. There was a 3 family of 3, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. Do you know who they were?
One of them played Honduras. One of them played for Wigan.
Pete jump in and steal a bonus point. What was the surnames?
Oh, from Honduras.
Yeah,
you got me. No, you got me.
Palacios is it Wigan? Palacios played for Wigan.
Correct guy, yeah. Wilson Palacios.
Really?
2 brothers, yeah. I don't know what their names were.
3 family of 3, wasn't it?
Yeah, 3 Palacioses. So that was that one. Who were the only unbeaten team in the World Cup? Do we know? Unbeaten team?
I thought they were the team that went out. No, wasn't it? Did Italy draw all their games or something?
I have a blank on this.
The correct answer is not Italy. It's New Zealand. New Zealand drew their 3 games.
They drew all their games
and went out. Yeah, I think they were in.
Because New Zealand drew with Italy, no?
Yeah, they did. They drew. Yeah, they were in the Italian one, but the 3 draws wasn't enough for them. So
right.
That's proper Ireland World Cup pedigree, isn't it?
Yeah, sure is. Next one. How many African teams made it to the knockout phase?
I think 1. So not Ghana.
Correct. Yeah, Ghana were the only one. South Africa were the first host nation not to get out of groups ever. Now, 7. Tommy Muller got the golden boot. What differentiated him from Via Schneider and Forlan?
I'm going to say assists, Gar.
It was an open play how he went with because, slightly different. But
yeah, the correct answer was assists. He got 3 assists and the others only got 1 assist.
Only because of the amount of assists that he's gotten in his career. That's the only reason I went that direction.
The other 3
earlier as well on Wednesday.
Yeah, the other 3 were actually split by the amount of goals per minutes played. That's how they split them 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. I don't know if they got a trophy or a medal for that. But he got the actual golden boot. Who won player of the tournament?
Forlan.
There you go, Forlan.
Correct.
Shawnee's boy.
Who won young player, P?
Oh, it's a very good question. Who was the young player? Were there any young players at this tournament, actually?
Yeah, it's a young, and there's quite a unique thing in the dream team. The dream team, or the final select team, was picked by the fans. It wasn't picked by.
Wasn't Thomas Muller, was it?
Was Tommy Muller? Yeah, fair play to you.
Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense.
Does Alexa speak back to you that fast?
No. Just in my head, I'm thinking about the ears. Thinking about the ears.
Fair play to you. Top man. Fair play to you.
Alexa, shut up.
Number 9. Spain set the record for the least amount of goals. How many did they get?
We went with 8.
Pete?
8. Sorry, I guessed 8, but maybe it's more.
No, it's 8. 8 is correct, yeah.
Oh, good.
Broke the record. England in 66, Argentina in 86. There was a few of them, I think, had 10. England, Spain broke it. Like I said, they scuttered their way through the tournament.
Yeah.
They weren't, when you look back, it was a great era for Spain, but the tournament, they weren't great in it. But done what they had to do, obviously. Last question was the attendance for the final. Now, obviously, I don't expect you to get a spot on, and if you do, there'll be a Stewart's inquiry that was elected. The nearest to it wins.
I went to 82.
I thought, to be honest, it was about 85, 86. I'm going to say 86.
So Gar's going with 82 and Pete's going with 86. Right, I have to do a bit of maths here to see who's the closest.
Is it that close?
The actual attendance is 84,490. So it's 84,490. So I think that will put Gar.
Yeah, Gar wins.
Point on that one. Now I'm going to tot these up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 14. And that sneaks Gar Brain as this week's winner at the death. Snatches victory from the jaws of defeat.
By 2,000 people.
Was it the last question, was it?
Well, it was. That's what got you ahead. Otherwise, you were going to be tie-breakers.
Oh, man, Pete. Good man, Pete.
So you save the listeners having to listen to that. Hold on. We have a Stewart's inquiry here. We have an interference here, but Gav is claiming that Pete wins on the attendance.
How's that?
Hold on, 82.
I said 86.
86, yeah, sorry, 86. Yeah, actually, sorry, Gar, I'm taking this back. I wrote them down wrong. After all that fanfare, Pete, you win. Really?
Asterisk, it's an asterisk win, though. Asterisk win.
Well done.
Asterisk win.
Yeah, take all the asterisks we can get. And luckily that Gav is monitoring this. Otherwise, it would have been a shame for
Carol Vorderman's job is safe.
Before we leave,
KPMG are on board, huh?
Oh, yeah, independent observer standing behind me with a big book about to whip me off the screen. Do you know, that's actually an ironic little moment we've had there. Do you know what was unusual? Quick one before we go about this, the host selection for this World Cup. It came down to Morocco and South Africa. It was only African teams were allowed to apply for this. Morocco won the vote, but South Africa got the tournament. So this all comes back to our old friends in
money. Sepp Blatter,
Mr. Blazer, and first.
Let's dedicate a whole show to how crooked Sepp Blatter is.
We could do, yeah. And I mean, I could try and put that down to a little bit of a. I planned to balls up the end of the quiz just to get that point in, but I didn't. I just made the balls of it.
Well, you're not going to get the bleeding house job appointment anytime soon anyway, so...
I'll take this one, If this is me only ever hosting gig, I think I've gone down quite well, I'm like
You've done really well, pal. A great debut, in my opinion.
I'm like a bald Rachel Loyley, and
You look like Carl Pilkington, actually, on this camera. A slightly happier version.
But I think the Graham Hunter show come up earlier on. I'm going with that one.
I did see that, yeah, I did see that. I got compared to Christian Walsh the other night, and I was shaved my beard off.
No, you don't want that one. You don't want that one, mate.
Yeah, so lads.
Oh, come here. What was his name off the Italian show? I used to do the Italian shows every Saturday morning, the roundup.
Richardson.
Oh, Richardson.
Richardson.
Yeah.
Image of Richardson.
I'll take Richardson, but
Yeah, I'll give you. You can have that one.
I'll take that. Yeah, he's a good.
Sitting there, you need your espresso beside you. He always has the coffee beside him.
For me, Bella Sport and all that. But listen, lads, thanks for joining us. It was a pleasure.
Thanks, pal.
I hope you enjoyed it. A roundup of the World Cups. This could be our last one if Phil has his way, but we'll see.
He hates the World Cup. Anything after 1990, he's not interested.
Well, you see, he's claiming that the trippers were going for the 14 and the 18, so there's no need to do it. So we might do 1930. Who knows? We'll come back and we'll see. So just to wrap it up, listen, Gar, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, pal.
No bother, Pete, all the way from sunny Catalonia.
Cheers,
Thank you
brother.
Stay well, Pete.
See you soon, boys.
Take care, folks. And to finish off, if we can all remember, every time we smile, a null and voider pokes their finger through the jackstraw when they're wiping their arse. So keep smiling. Take care, folks.
Thanks, pal.
Good.